Hello everybody and welcome back. So this is chapter 2 of my wattpad Creepypasta FanFiction. Let's get into it. This is chapter 2. Let's go on. The picture above is not mine. All rights to original owner. All rights to the first picture. Sorry, on with the chapter. Crystal just stared at the boy who had just broken into her room on the second floor Crystal just stared at the boy who had just broken into her room on the second floor. And did she really then just close the window, kind of trapping them both in the same room just now? She had done it all because he had told her to. Crystal's poor mind was in such a state of shock and confusion that staring and standing still was all she could really do. The longer she stared, the more her eyes adjusted to the dark in the moonlight, and she could make out details about the boy. He was wearing a big puffed up hoodie, the kind that you would see woodcutters and nature people wearing, but was way too big for him, really. Crystal could tell he was very thin, long, and very slender underneath. His jean pants did not fit him either. They dragged over his combat boots, which were about the only thing that fit him. His face, which had been studying her as if she'd waited for her to scream or move, as if he'd waited for her to scream or move. She was a lot more afraid of studying, so she just looked down. He spoke. Her head shot right to his face. I think this'll do nicely. He sounded smug and chipper as hell. Crystal looked and tried to get a really good read on his expressions, as she said, "Do what nicely?" "Do nicely for what?" she said, sounding slightly panicked, just downright confuddled. She quickly studied his face, and as she feared, his response. His chocolate-colored eyes twinkled with mischief, and his head tilted, and he was smiling cheekily. He then tossed his head back, which was now, from his movements, she could tell was brown and not the gray as the moonlight had made it look when he was standing still. He said, "Well, love, I've been looking for a place to hide and do some business at, and with your help I think your room here is just the place," he said, casually as anybody could, while spinning his mask around in one finger as he strolled around the room. Crystal's mouth just hanged open as she shook her head. Then she said, "No, sir, no. This is my room and my parents' house. This is not any place for anyone, anything you could need it for," she said. "Anything you can need it for." She finished trying to sound responsible, but the boy who had walked around the desk across the room, just as she had finished, he took the wooden chair in one hand and spun it around to sit in. As he sat in it, as he sat down, he gave her a cold look. He gave her a cold hard glare. "Careful there, girlie. One of the only reasons you ain't dead or tied up is 'cause you didn't scream." He leaned forward in the chair, menacingly, as he said this. He didn't sound chipper or any sort of friendly any more. Crystal froze in place again, in horror. "Besides," he said, leaning back in his chair, pulling a small knife out of his pocket and starting to file his nails, I've been watching you. I've been watching you and your house for weeks now. I've come to know you take orders very well and are a good girl. You wouldn't leave me hanging when I truly needed help or a place to hide. You wouldn't leave me hopeless, would you? Would you?" he asked, his head tilting his head mockingly. Crystal, shaking out of her frozen state, was now torn between what she was programmed to do versus what her mind told her to do in that moment. What was she supposed to do? What did she do in a situation like this? How did she answer? And if she could scream, what would it do to her parents or siblings? So she gave the only good girl answer she could. I won't leave you hopeless or without help," she told him hesitantly but truthfully. "Wonderful," he said, delightful. "Good girl," he said as he stood up and put the knife back in his pocket. And grabbed his mask in a fluid back on in a fluid motion and walked up to the window and pulled it open just as he was climbing out. He lifted his mask. He walked up to the window, pulled it open, and as he was climbing out, he lifted his mask and told Crystal, "I'll be back. I'm going to pop in once in a while and check up on you and the likes, love." He pulled his mask down and was pulling himself out when he stopped and came back in, pulled his mask back up and said, Oh, my name is Zach, by the way. Oh yeah, my name is Zach, by the way. You're going to need to know that. Toodles. He put the mask back on and jumped quickly out, leaving her to shut the window behind her. As she shut it, she locked it, and then she turned around and slid down the wall. She held tight to her legs and sat down shaking. What had she just said? What had just happened? What will happen to her now? Let's see. I chose this photo online because I wanted other people to see what Zach looked like. Hope you guys enjoy. Yeah, I chose this photo up here and everything else now because Wattpad allows you to do that. And this is the closest thing I can think of to how Zach looks in my mind without the makeup, without this stuff and all. So anyway, that's chapter 2, and that'll be it. So, sorry, back up there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it and everything else and all. And I'll see you guys in part 3. And thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe or like, comment. Let me know if you guys are enjoying this. Please, and thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next